My half-sister had called me crying, saying our mother kicked her out and she really needs her sister. I hung up the first time, and when she kept calling and texting, I told her we're not actually sisters and I wasn't driving 6 hours to pick her up nor letting her stay with me. I've been getting non-stop texts and calls from my maternal family since then. My maternal grandmother, the only person I stayed in any contact with, pretty much begged me to be a good sister and let half-sister stay with me. She told half-sister I have my own house, gave her my number, etc. I've blocked my grandmother and everyone, saying that I should be understanding because we've both been abandoned by our mother. It isn't the same. I told my grandmother this, but no one seems willing to acknowledge that. For context, half-sister and I are exactly 9 months apart in age. She's the product of an affair, and my dad stayed with my biological mother until I was 5, and told him she kept bringing a man around when he wasn't home. Her affair partner and half-sister's biological dad. Dad divorced biological mother and gave her the house in exchange for removing his name from half-sister's birth certificate. Biological mother lost custody of me when I was 8 after abandoning me because affair partner didn't want to bring a child that wasn't his to family gatherings. Dad tried to keep it civil so I could have a relationship with half-sister, but she was a mini affair partner and never viewed me as a sister. I didn't like being around her, so my dad never forced me to. Biological mother, affair partner, and half-sister moved not long after this. Biological mother had been in childcare and lost her job because no one wants to hire you to watch their kids when you abandon yours in the middle of the night. I haven't seen half-sister in 17 years. I didn't know what she looked like until I came home today. She was sitting on my porch with a suitcase and a car, I think my grandmother's, pulled off as soon as I parked. I didn't get out of the car. I was too angry to even move, and I'm still angry right now. She kept saying she needs me and started crying, telling me that our mom was awful, her dad cut contact, and biological mother's new partner doesn't want her in his house. I live next door to my dad, so when half-sister started knocking on my car window after I just stared at her, I called him and told him what was going on and asked what I should do. Dad told me to stay in my car and call the cops, say I had a trespasser, which I did. I didn't get out until the cops came, and when they did, half-sister told them I agreed to let her stay, and now I'm leaving her homeless. I just showed them the texts, specifically the only texts I gave in response to everyone demanding I let her stay. No to you have the space, no to she's your sister, no to can she please stay with you. Nothing but refusals before I blocked people. When half-sister kept saying we're sisters, I told the cops I haven't seen this woman in 17 years. I don't know her. I didn't even know what she looked like. We're not family beyond sharing an egg donor. I went as far as unblocking my grandmother and calling her. I didn't even get to speak. She yelled, "Look OP, I love you, but you need to get over this. She's family and she needs you, and I've told your father you'd go to hell if he raised you to be so damn selfish. And you definitely will, because she's going through the same thing you went through." She hung up right after, and I told the cops they can book half-sister or drop her at a shelter. I don't care. I just want her off my property. They took her, and now I'm sitting here on my dad's couch wondering what the hell just happened. He doesn't want me staying alone right now in case they show back up. I'm so mad right now, I don't get it. 17 damn years of no contact. I only speak to my grandmother on holidays. I don't know most of the aunts and uncles and cousins that blew up my phone, but because biological mother pushed me out, I have to do what they tell me to. I'm 25 years old. I've only had my dad and my paternal family for years. Biological mother and her family haven't done anything for me. None of them even know when my damn birthday is, because even my grandmother texts me on the wrong day, not even a phone call. If half-sister needs help so badly, one of you should help her. I don't know her. I don't know any of you either. I'm not letting an entire stranger into my house. And 6 hours is too far to visit when I had surgery, but not too far to try and force me to do something. Update: I checked the camera footage last night and this morning. Half-sister and biological mother's mother had been looking under mats, rocks, in potted plants, the mailbox, and checking the doors. Probably were looking for a spare key. I don't keep one on my property, and my dad, grandma, and grandpa have keys they keep with theirs. My uncle did an overhaul of mine and dad's cameras. We now have ones that send notifications to our phones when motion is detected. Also got Ring doorbells for the front and back doors. There are other features, and all the cameras are better hidden as well. I went to the police department while he was doing this and brought my grandpa with me. Half-sister was booked for trespassing, but not held very long since biological mother's mother picked her up from the station. They stuck to the lie of me offering half-sister a place to stay and gave statements. Not sure how that's going to go, but I'm taking steps to protect myself, my property, and my dad and his property. Half-sister doesn't have a record beyond this, so this was her first offense. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. It sounds awful, but I had hoped she would have at least one prior, because commenters make it seem like that would make the outcome of a permanent restraining order and no trespassing order favorable. Biological mother's mother does have a record though: harassment, trespassing, and domestic violence. I shared this with the police as well. Either way, I was able to get a temporary restraining order today, so there's that. I gave the camera footage to the police alongside copies of the texts, printed out and on USB, gave a statement, and they called a judge to get the temporary restraining order issued. I talked with them about other things like self-defense recommendations, overhauling my security system, getting a gun for protection, and so on. I was really anxious and just kept talking because it finally hit me that these people know where I live, and they're willing to make the 6 hours to harass me and get inside my home. The texts and voice messages haven't stopped. I unblocked and muted. There are direct and indirect threats. Biological mother's mother is adamant that since I have an entire house to myself, a stable job, and no children, I will be housing half-sister or she'd give me the butt-whopping my dad should've. Half-sister has only left one voice message about coming over later today, and that she's staying with me because that's what blood does, they help. When there was no response, she sent multiple texts telling me I need to be more understanding, that she's in a tough spot, and that she's moving in for at least a week until she's able to support herself. It's 7 days to gain tenancy here. Additional clarification for people asking about the age gap. I'm a February 1st baby, half-sister is a November 29th baby. I say exactly 9 months because I'm not counting the weeks and days, just felt that people knowing we're the same age was relevant and gave context to why I have no relationship with her. I don't know if she was premature. I never asked to be honest and there are people saying they have similar gaps around them, so I have nothing to add. Multiple people also asked if I hate half-sister and that I sound resentful for things she said as a child, and for things her parents did. In my first post, I talked to someone in the comments and admitted that had this been a few years earlier, I may have helped half-sister without much thought. I know as a child, she was just parroting her parents. I don't fault her for that nor do I blame her for biological mother abandoning me. But it's been 17 years. We've been legal adults for 7 of those years. She could have reached out at any point, but didn't and said she had no sister. I also could have reached out at any point, but also didn't. I just moved on with my life. I was in therapy since I was abandoned and it took me years to move on from no one on that side actually wanting me. Now she's making herself a problem. Biological mother's mother aside, half-sister was sitting on my porch with a suitcase ready to force herself into my home and life. She allowed herself to be driven 6 hours to my home, sat on my porch for half an hour, and then lied to police all after I said no multiple times. She never claimed me until she needed something and now she's forcing herself into my life on the basis of being family. I don't hate her, that's too much energy, but I do resent her now alongside her grandmother and the rest of her family. I was ignored for years and now I feel unsafe in my own home just because half-sister and those around her can't take no for an answer. This isn't about biological mother's affair, this is about half-sister and her family ruining my safe space, my home, with their trash. The past is a factor in that resentment now because, again, I haven't spoken to her in 17 years, I didn't know what she looked like, but suddenly we're sisters because she needs someplace to stay. I definitely resent that. Also, I feel validated in my choices, posting to Reddit, asking for and taking advice, listening to my dad. The attorney I spoke to pretty much said all the same things commenters have, unblocking and muting to get in evidence of harassment, calling the cops and showing them the messages because it proves there was no implied invitation. This is apparently the biggest thing I had to worry about because even letting half-sister stay on my porch could have worked against me. Giving the cops the camera footage of half-sister and biological mother's mother looking for a spare key was also a good move. Even going about upgrading security, getting self-defense items, and asking the officers about self-defense recommendations and my wish to get a gun for protection works in my favor. It shows that even though this was half-sister's first offense, I don't feel safe and she's a major cause of that. And I don't, so thank you again for all the advice. If they show up like they said, I'm gonna set off my security system and call the cops. Temporary restraining order wasn't active when I posted the update because they hadn't been served yet. They were found at a hotel near my home and were served. A neighbor saw them and called the police. I was reporting the texts though. The temporary restraining order is on both half-sister and biological mother's mother.